Coming to you from Southern California, this is Mindset, mental health news and information. I'm your host, James Curtis. Happy 2015 to everyone who is out there listening. And in celebration of our first episode of 2015, a quiz. January is unofficially and a bit dubiously known as what month? What's the title? What's the tag that it's garnered for itself? And just to be fair, here's a hint, actually a couple of hints. One, it's in the title of this episode. And just in case you forgot the title of this episode, here's another hint.
Because life is short, you got to have some fun, man. I'm happy because I'm just celebrating 3 years of marriage, man. That's right. Again. That's right. Went through a divorce before because I wasn't sensitive enough because I didn't cry. And then she hired an attorney. I learned how to cry.
That was comedian Kiwi Rogers, and that's courtesy of Funny for Shizzle. You can check him out at the YouTube channel Funny for Shizzle, as well as a bunch of other great young comedians. And yes, January has the honor of being dubbed Divorce Month. So today we're going to talk about getting through what, in my personal experience and the opinion of many, many others, is probably the most miserable experience that anyone could go through. And for a miserable experience, I think that one of the best ideas that a group of lawyers, therapists, and financial professionals has ever come up with is something called collaborative divorce. But before we get to that, and then my guest, who is on the line and going to be talking to us from New York about her collaborative law practice and giving us an idea about why January has that honorable title, some news. From the New York Times, Dr. Helen Mayberg of Emory University recently published a study in JAMA Psychiatry, that's JAMA, that identified a potential biomarker in the brain that could predict whether a depressed patient would respond better to psychotherapy or antidepressant medication. Now, this research could improve the current therapeutic approach where doctors typically prescribe antidepressants on a trial and error basis and then selecting or adding one antidepressant after another until or finding out whether or not the patient responds or prescribing another if indeed they fail to respond to the first treatment. From Time magazine, women with more PTSD appear to be at double the risk for type 2 diabetes. This from a Time magazine report on the findings of a new study also published in the journal JAMA Psychiatry that looked at nearly 50,000 women over a 22-year period. Time.com, quoting the study's author, Kirsten Conan, an epidemiology professor at Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health, was quoted to say, we are under stress, and women, let me start that over. When we are under stress, we are more likely to get sick. But women with PTSD are in this extreme stress response time a lot more of the time. It's so important that people understand that PTSD isn't just in veterans. Most PTSD is just in regular people in the community. From the New York Times, the New York-based research facility and foundation, the Simons Foundation or the Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, that's Simons Foundation Autism Research Initiative, or SFARI. According to a study published in December of last year in PLOS One, researchers have been able to accurately distinguish people with autism from others 97% of the time. However, the study also reveals contradictions and even dangers involved with what the SFARI article calls ostensibly objective, as this approach has been dubbed. Autism is otherwise diagnosed strictly on the basis of behavior, and a time-consuming process that has led researchers to try to identify the biomarkers in order to both speed up the process and to provide a more objective diagnostic procedure. Finally, from the BBC World Service, Quentin Cooper meets up with some researchers, talks to them about the role of virtual reality technology in the effort to understand the mental health processes. For a link to that podcast and other mental health news items, follow Mindset on Twitter. Our handle is @MindsetShow, and you can find links on these and other news items on our Facebook page. That is facebook.com/Mindset Show page. On to our main topic. According to family law and matrimonial professionals, January is indeed deemed or dubbed the divorce month. And to talk about why that is, I'm joined live from New York by attorney Catherine Miller. Catherine, are you there?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for holding on through that long news monologue, and thank you so much for joining us. And it's cold back there.
It is frigid back here in New York.
And your law offices, and you can find Catherine Miller on the web at westchesterfamilylaw.com, focuses on something called collaborative law. And I want to talk about, and we're going to hear more about what that is in just a moment. Before we get to that, there are a considerable number of attorneys who consider this divorce month. Why is that? Is it a numbers thing? Do people just get sick and tired of getting through the holidays with someone they don't want to be married with? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things, and it's sort of a confluence of events that happen at this time of year. One is that we have just been through the holiday season, which is a stressful time for many families. It's a time when kids are off from school, and it's supposed to be a joyful time, and the contrast between the joy you're supposed to feel and the misery of your life can become overwhelming for some people. And some people, I think, get through the holiday season, close the door on the last of the in-laws, and turn around and say, I'm never going to go through another holiday season like that again. I think that's one factor.
Okay.
I think the other factor is this idea that we're supposed to make a positive resolution, right? We're going to make a New Year's resolution, and we're going to do something that's going to be hard, but it's going to be good for us, right? We're going to get in shape. We're going to lose weight. We're going to get healthy. We're going to go into therapy. We're going to change our job. We're going to change our relationship because even though it's going to be stressful, expensive, scary, I commit to myself to be happy. And I think the combination of getting through the holiday season, having it be really stressful in the contrast that it's supposed to be a really happy family time, and this idea to make a promise to yourself to make things better, and the New Year's resolution creates this uptick in people calling divorce lawyers in January.
Now, is there anything to the idea that if you get it started in January, a lot of states, especially in California, take 6 months minimally to get this done. By the time everything's all said and done, everything's wrapped up, assuming that it goes as well and as speedily as it might go, everything's wrapped up in time for the new school year for the kids.
Well, I think that sometimes people have an optimistic view as to how long it's going to take. I really don't know what the average time in California it is from, hey, let's get divorced to actually divorced. In New York, it would be it's possible, but everything would have to sort of go along on time, and it often doesn't happen in order for that to be the case, to be divorced by the time the kids go back to school. But it's really, pretty likely that they'll have the spring to sort it out, the summer to separate, and at least sort of have the appearance of being divorced and having set up the two separate households from the children and parenting perspective. Absolutely.
I want to ask you about something on your website, which a quote that I thought was really, well, let me just read it. After a decade of child welfare and matrimonial litigation, I abandoned the court system in search of a better way for families to resolve disputes. Pretty strong language.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Sure. Well, I actually grew up in a family of therapists, and I I knew that I didn't want to be a therapist, so I decided that I would be a family lawyer. So I'd work in the law, but I'd be trying to help people find resolution to problems that happened in their families and in their personal lives. And so I started doing this work, and maybe 2 years into it, I took a mediation training, and I was really struggling to find a better way to help families resolve conflict and to find a way to resolve basically conflict of all kinds where relationship matters as it does so much in the families. And I started to try to integrate those mediative techniques into my matrimonial, my divorce negotiations, and I kept running into the same problem, and that problem was the other lawyer, because we couldn't seem to get on the same page about whether or not we were arguing about the law or arguing about what was best for this family, arguing about the finances. And the truth of the matter is that in New York, 97% of divorce cases settle before a judge hands down a decision after a trial. So really, it's the negotiation that matters more than it is the trial that matters. At the end of that 10 years, I was getting divorced myself, and that really was the catalyst. There was no collaborative law in New York at the time. We were unable to mediate. We settled outside the courtroom, as most people do. We settled in the conference room. We never went to court. And when I finished that experience, which was so scary for me, and even though I really knew my way around the system, it's because I knew my way around the system that I knew what to be afraid of, that I decided that I would rather sell shoes than to continue to practice in that way.
Wow.
Even though I myself, I enjoyed the litigation game, but I really knew it wasn't right for clients. And when I was on the other side of the counsel table, I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. So I quit my job. I took steps to leave the law as a profession. I sort of tried out a few different things, and then someone invited me to take a collaborative training. Remember, I was doing a little bit of mediation, and I was kind of futzing around trying to find some way that I could use my training and my interests and not feel like I was damaging families in order to make them better. And so I went to take this collaborative training, thinking, can it really be any better? And within 15 minutes, it felt like I was coming home, meaning that it felt like this way where the lawyers at the time, it was just lawyers, but now the sort of full team of collaborative professionals work together as a team to support the family to make a transition, a difficult transition, but one that really is going to be better for them, where we're really working together instead of competitively against each other to find practical resolutions that really make sense for this family based on their points of reference rather than the points of reference that a judge in a black robe might consider.
Catherine Miller, attorney at law, practices in New York. She has offices in Westchester and Manhattan. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. And you can find out more information about Catherine Miller, her fabulous practice, her great innovative approach called collaborative law. We're going to hear some more about that later on in the show. And you can find out more about Catherine's practice if you're in the New York area at westchesterfamilylaw.com. Catherine Miller, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. More when we return.